For the past 2 years, my husband and I have tracked every single expense in Google Sheets. Every bill, every grocery trip, every restaurant, every purchase, and for a long time, it worked really well. But recently, I wanted to answer a simple question: how much have we actually spent on food? The answer wasn't as simple as expected, because food wasn't just one category. It included groceries, eating out, snacks, and even food that we bought for family gatherings. So I had to combine multiple categories, filter the spreadsheet, and write formulas. And even though the data was already there, I found myself thinking, I don't really want to build another formula just to answer a question. I just want to ask the question. So I started thinking, what if I could just talk to my data? And that became the next app I want to build. Hey, if you're new here, my name is He. I make videos about web development, AI, and the things I'm currently experimenting with while building software. Today, I want to share a new project I'm starting. Not because I think the world needs another AI app, but because I have a problem that I actually want to solve. And I want to see whether I can build something that my husband and I will genuinely use. So the idea is pretty simple. I want to be able to ask questions about our expenses in plain English. So questions like, how much did we spend on food this year? How much did we spend eating out compared to buying groceries? And instead of creating filters or writing formulas, I want to have a conversation with the data. So the basic flow is we upload our expense data, the application stores it in a database, and then we can ask questions through a chat interface. But once I started thinking about how to build this, I ran into an interesting technical question. How should the AI actually answer these questions? So my first thought was that I might need to build a typical RAG system. The basic idea behind RAG is that the system retrieves relevant information and gives it to an LLM as context, so the model can use that information to generate an answer. But when I thought about the questions I wanted to ask, I realized that simply retrieving a few relevant expense records probably wasn't enough. For example, if I ask, how much did we spend on food this year? The answer isn't stored in a single record. The system needs to filter many records and calculate a total. Or if I ask, which restaurants did we spend the most money at? It needs to group the expenses, add them together, and compare the results. So rather than having the LLM answer directly from retrieved records, I decided to use a text-to-SQL approach. The idea is I ask a question in natural language, the LLM interprets what I'm asking. It generates a SQL query. The database executes that query and performs the actual calculation. And then the result can be turned back into a natural language answer. So I like this approach because the database remains the source of truth for the actual calculations. The LLM's job is to mainly understand what I'm asking and translate that request into something the database can execute. So based on that idea, I built the first version of the app. For now, I deliberately keep the flow very simple. So after logging in, I can upload a CSV file containing our expense data. The app processes the file and saves the data to the database. And then I can start asking questions. Let's start with a relatively simple question. How much did we spend on groceries in June 2026? So the app tells me that we spent this much on groceries in June 2026. But of course, I don't want to blindly trust the answer just because an AI generated it. So let's check it against the original spreadsheet. And in this case, the result seems to be correct. Let's try another question. How many times did we go to Coles in June of 2026? And if you're not familiar with Australia, Coles is one of the biggest supermarket chains here. So the app tells me you went to Coles 10 times in June 2026. So let's check that against the spreadsheet as well. And again, the result seems to be correct. So far, so good. But this is where things start to get more interesting. Let's ask a more complicated question. compare my average monthly grocery spending in 2025 and 2026. And this time, the app starts to struggle. The answer isn't quite what I expected. And this is exactly the kind of problem I want to work on next. Because asking an AI to answer a simple question about structured data is one thing, but once the question requires multiple steps of reasoning, such as grouping data by month, calculating averages, and comparing different time periods, the system becomes much more challenging to get it right. So this version is definitely not finished. There are still a lot of things that I want to improve, and I want to support more complex questions, and I want to spend more time thinking about how to make the answers reliable. This is just the first version of the app, and I plan to continue improving it over the next few weeks. I'm especially interested in seeing how far I can take the idea of having a natural language interface for personal financial data. And because this is a problem that my husband and I actually have, I'll be able to test the app with real questions that we genuinely want to answer. So if you'd like to follow along as I build this app, experiment with AI architecture, and figure out what actually works, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.